Hello, said Alice. You're listening to Red Herring, a Batwoman podcast. I'm Erin,
And I'm Shelley.
and we're here to get curiouser and curiouser about the latest episode of Batwoman. This week, we're talking about Batwoman Season 1, Episode 2, The Rabbit Hole. The official episode synopsis reads, Back in Gotham, battling Alice and the Wonderland gang from the shadows, Kate Kane continues to be haunted by the events surrounding her sister's death 15 years earlier. While the city holds on to hope that Batman has returned, Jacob Kane and the Crows up the stakes trying to take down the villainous crew. Kate continues to look to Bruce Wayne's legacy for guidance as Luke Fox inadvertently gets pulled into Batwoman's vigilante heroics. Sophie and Kate are forced to team up, while Mary finds herself in Alice's crosshairs.
So this episode was a bit darker, in my opinion. I really liked it, but I was very disturbed by what happened to the elderly couple.
Yeah, what?
That was terrible.
Yeah, so Alice kidnapped two old people because she didn't have anywhere to stay or what?
So they ran them out of the orphanage where they'd been staying. So they were kind of like on the run and like needed a place to go. So they went to the house that Beth and Kate grew up in. And it is currently owned by an elderly couple. So they like took them hostage, essentially. I mean, I guess I don't know if you can call it hostage or not because nobody knew about them. But yeah, I mean, held them against their will and set up base in that house.
Yeah. So she kidnaps them and like has a weird tea party with them and slits their throats.
Yeah.
With her knife that she doesn't like. Because her knife that she does like, Kate took last episode.
And it really like got to me. I'm not into violence at all. I don't care for it at all. But it was just so senseless.
Honestly, the only thing I could think about when they showed that is that the show is on at 8 p.m. and
Yes.
not 9 p.m. when they could have put it there.
Yeah, exactly.
Just, what? Who slits throats at 8 p.m.? That's clearly a 9 p.m. activity.
Yeah, I mean, I think 9:30 bare minimum, but
I mean, that's like an 11 p.m. HBO activity.
yeah, that was really bad. Like they really showed like a lot of stuff, and then they kept showing pictures of it and shit. Like they didn't let it go. But then they like were talking about how like their TV dinners were still in the microwave. Like it just made me really sad because it was just such a senseless act. Those elderly people weren't going to do shit to Alice. She just killed them because she could. So I really enjoyed how Kate just like lays it out that Alice is Beth at breakfast. How she just like busts out with that in the middle of everything and everybody just like kind of looks at her.
My favorite thing about Kate so far is obviously she's a darker character. You know, she has a lot of childhood trauma going on, and she is the Batwoman, so, like, she's got a definitely dark thing going on and a hardcore aesthetic and whatnot, but she does not bottle shit up.
No,
I love that about her.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. That is like, seriously, that is how I live my life. So if I was like sitting on something like that, that's exactly how I would deliver that.
Yeah, I love that she doesn't bottle things up, and I also love that, like, they're still very clear that, like, the thing that makes her different than Alice is the fact that she has hope, which is cool, because that's, like, a different kind of hope than Supergirl. She just wants things to be better and thinks that she can make them better, and, like, that's what she does it for, which is different than Batman, because Batman is just depressed and mad about things.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like he's tortured in a way.
Yeah, but he's only tortured. Like, you don't really even know why he does what he does. He just does it because his parents died and now he wants to do those things. But she does it for a reason because she wants to make things better. Like, her whole Batwoman thing is because she wants to help Beth. That's why she keeps the Batwoman suit and keeps going out, is because she's trying to find Beth and help her. She's not trying to just, like, be a vigilante and do that stuff. So I like what motivates her, and I like the fact that she's not trying to hide it from anyone. I mean, she's not telling people she's Batwoman, but
Right. And I liked also how she didn't back down when everybody was just like, that's not possible. It's been disproven. There's all this, like, there's this DNA thing with the skull, which I'll get into here in a minute, fragments that they found. But, like, she just doesn't back down and is instead, like, 100% focused on convincing everyone.
she's the only one who can, like, take in the information and, like, just judge it by what she knows is happening and what she can see right now. um, and she's not going to let anybody convince her otherwise. I really, really like her. I also love at the beginning when she was like hunting down Alice's people that when she got shot, she the bullet bounced off the vest or whatever, and she just looked down and she was like, cool.
Yeah, she didn't realize that the suit was bulletproof, but she just, like, sat there and, like, took the shots. That was
Right,
pretty
she got
badass.
shot like 4 times and didn't know that it wasn't gonna do anything. Which is reminiscent of Kara in the first episode where Wynn is like, are you sure that you are bulletproof? And she's like, I think so. And just goes and gets shot a bunch to figure it out.
Right.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like Kate. I like that she has fun, but she also is very steadfast in her beliefs and, like, is doing things because she just genuinely wants to make things better. I like her so much.
Yeah, and I feel bad for her. I really do believe that Alice is Beth. And
Oh, yeah.
that's her sister. And I kind of hated how Alice was just like, where did I read it online? Like, trying to get, like, mess with Kate's head to, I guess, to try to make her question whether or not Alice was actually Beth or not. Like, planting some doubt, saying that she read that the waffle place was their favorite place because of an article she read.
Yeah, I think it's totally true, and I think Kate knows it's totally true. What I wonder is whether or not Jacob, their dad, actually doesn't believe it's true.
Well, he's basing all of his denial on fragments of a skull that was found at Miller's farm. I don't know why they name dropped the
Yeah.
farm, but they did. And the DNA matched Beth's. But
Yes, allegedly.
it was Catherine Hamilton, his new wife, Mary's mom.
Yeah, so we can actually cover both them right now. Jacob and Catherine. So, like, Jacob in the first episode, and if you listen to the first episode of this podcast, you'll remember that we weren't sure if he knew that Beth was alive or not. And this is assuming that Alice is actually Beth and Beth is actually alive, which I think is true. So basically, Jacob in this episode, he mostly appears in flashbacks, and the flashbacks are him taking care of Kate after the accident, and Kate's like staying up all night, clutching the phone, sleeping in a chair, just waiting for Beth to call, which is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
For months. And we find out that it's because she totally blames herself, and she's like, why did I jump out of the car? Why didn't I grab her? Why didn't I make her come with me? And Jacob was like, no, you were just being safe. You were trying to, survive. And she was like, no, I could have gotten her. And, like, Kate totally blames herself for it. And she still does. She says that to Beth later. Or to Alice later. But, so we mostly see Jacob through that. And he says in real time that Alice can't be Beth because skull fragments were found. And we see in the flashback, Jacob finds Kate sleeping next to a map of everywhere that they've searched for Beth. And he starts crying, and Kate finds him, and we find out that he's crying because Catherine's people, I guess, Catherine, his future wife, found skull fragments on Miller's farm that were matched to Beth. And so Beth is officially dead. And so what we were wondering last episode is whether Jacob actually thought that. And there's still, I'm not 100% sure that he actually thought that he doesn't know that Beth is alive, but what it seems like now is that he really did think that she was dead the whole time, and that Catherine has something to do with whatever happened to her, and that she told him that Beth was dead.
Right, because like you said, it was her investigators that found the bones, but they also allegedly ran the tests on them.
Mm-hmm.
So they like found them and then like closed the case. Like that was it.
And it was in the comics that Jacob knew that she was alive, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe the TV show version is that Catherine knew and Jacob didn't know. I'm not 100% convinced that he didn't know.
Or have his suspicions at least.
Right, because we don't see like the flashback version of him getting told that it happened. We just see him telling Kate. So we don't know 100%, but I mean, it kind of seems like he didn't know.
Yeah. That's where I'm at right now. I don't think that he did, or I think he believed what he was told, that they found her skull fragments, and then the conclusion is that she's deceased.
Yeah, and then later on in the episode after everything happens, which we'll go into more detail later, but he still is telling Kate that he doesn't believe that Beth is Alice. He doesn't think that his daughter can do all of those things, and that he'll have Kate arrested if she keeps trying to go after Alice because he just does not believe that she's Beth. So, like, it seems genuine to me at this point. I mean, I trust nobody, but
Yeah, me neither.
I trust Kate Kane fully, and Luke. I trust Kate and Luke with my life, but nobody else. Maybe Mary. But yeah, I don't think he knows. I don't think this version of Jacob Kane knows.
I don't either, and I'm really curious. So Kate kept Alice's knife, and after she announced at breakfast that Alice was Beth, she also said that she had her knife and she was going to run DNA tests on it. And she tries to get Sophie to run the DNA test for her, and Sophie refused to do it because she didn't want to get in trouble with Kate's dad. And they're at the Crows' headquarters, like kind of like sitting outside their offices, I guess, like in the garage maybe is how it seems. And this van comes like speeding around like after like a smoke canister or some kind of gas canister is like released. The van comes speeding around the corner and all these guys jump out and they appear to be Alice's guys. And they're like, you have something to Alice's. And then they fight them and they end up getting the knife and they just roll out. And we find out later in the episode that it wasn't Alice's guys, that Alice had no idea that Kate even had her knife. That it was
Catherine.
Yeah, who sent those guys. And like, I guess, I don't know, I'm really bad with like faces, but I'm assuming the guy she was talking to actually works for the Crows.
Yeah, they all have classic white man face, so like I can't.
Yeah.
I really tried, but I can't. It's not Alice's boyfriend. So maybe he's a crow. Maybe we haven't met him yet. I don't really know. I couldn't tell.
But she set up that whole thing, sent those guys in there posing as Alice's guys. And later when she met up with the guy that we don't know who he is, she was going to burn the mask and destroy the security footage so nobody would know any different.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that Catherine is in charge of whatever nefarious organization took Beth. I feel like that's a fair guess at this point.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, we weren't supposed to like Catherine from the get-go, so this tracks.
Yeah. And it seems like Jacob is intentionally avoiding Kate's questions about Alice and her statements that Alice is Beth. And that made me question his knowledge, but I still think he doesn't know for sure.
Yeah, he's really hard for me to read because he's like, especially in the first episode, it is kind of hinted at that he does know who she is, just from the way he's acting and like the way it sort of lingers on him whenever Beth talks to him, or not Beth, sorry, Alice. Just sort of the way he acts when he's talking to Alice. It does kind of hint in the first episode that he does know, but then the second episode, it feels like he doesn't know, and I feel like he doesn't know, but I'm not prepared to make a guess 100% either way. Because he's, like, kind of shady. I don't know if maybe he, like, once they found the bone fragments or whatever, he wasn't fully convinced either, but now he is. Or he just doesn't want to believe it. I don't know.
But one of Alice's guys, they were tracking him and he disappeared around Bennett Avenue. And it turns out, like, it clicks with Kate that that's where Mary's clinic is.
Mm-hmm.
So Kate heads over there. She doesn't say anything to her dad. She heads over and confronts the guy and ends up letting him go. Like, releases him from his restraints and tells him to deliver the message waffles to Alice from Kate Kane. He, like, staggers out of there, and Mary's just like, what the hell? And Kate says that if Alice is really Beth, she'll get it and she'll meet up with her and, like, get answers.
Mm-hmm.
And Kate shares this with Sophie, and Sophie remembers that Kate and Beth's favorite place was the waffle stand. And Kate asks Sophie to buy her some time so she can meet up with Alice and talk to her. And that's when they go to the house and find the old people. So they've got plenty of time while they're, like, looking through all that shit. Alice and Kate meet up at the waffle stand. Alice makes a comment about Kate, about an interest in her gossiping about boys. And I like that Kate, like, kind of smirks and is just like, we have a lot to catch up on.
There's no way Alice doesn't know, right?
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, well, okay, I don't know. We don't really have evidence that Alice was following Kate forever, but I kind of feel like she probably was. So I feel like there's a reason she kidnapped Sophie.
Right.
So I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
she is. I did like that comment, though. I liked that exchange.
Yeah, that was kind of funny.
So in the first episode, Alice was talking to Kate about how Jacob loves Sophie as a daughter. So, like, there's that reason that she could have kidnapped Sophie. But I kind of like it from the angle that she's been following Kate the whole time and she knows who Sophie is to Kate and she knew what she was saying when she made that comment. And, like, I just feel like if Alice is Beth, there's no world in which she would not have been following Kate closely. Because she clearly blames Kate for what happened, as well as Jacob. Maybe not blames her, but ties her very closely to herself.
Right. When she made the comment that, well, Kate asks her how she survived the car crash. And Alice actually gets emotional, saying she kept calm, thinking surely someone will come and save me.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like that was, like, directed at Kate. And I can get, like, as her twin, like, she'd expect Kate to, like, come after her.
And she also has her boyfriend go after Mary because Kate is her sister. She's not Mary's sister, she's hers. So, I don't know, just all of that makes me feel like she would have very closely followed Kate this whole time.
Right. And Kate does tell Alice that she feels bad about it and, like, how she shouldn't have left her in there, that she should have been in the car with Beth when it went over.
Yeah, Beth says, tell me, how long exactly did it take for you to be able to sleep through the night after it happened? And Kate says, I still haven't. And I think that's true. She has an enormous amount of guilt.
And Alice ends up giving Kate a sample of her DNA. She was, like, cutting herself.
Yeah, so sidebar, I don't know why people in TV and movies do this. It happens in everything I can think of. Every time Supergirl is exposed to kryptonite and needs to, or, doesn't have her powers and needs to prove it, she slices herself across the hand. It happens in Winona Earp in the latest season when they need her blood, they, like, dig into her hand. There are so many easier ways to get a little small amount of blood than just scraping a knife all the way across her hand. And Alice is really digging that knife into her hand.
Yeah, big time.
Intensely. And it kind of makes sense for her because she's a little unhinged. But I just don't understand that. Give yourself a little poke in the calf or in the finger or somewhere where it's not going to hurt as badly as slicing across your entire palm. But everyone does it.
Yeah, all you have to do for DNA is just swab your cheek. Like, you don't even have to fucking cut anything.
Right.
Take some hair, swab her cheek, like, but no, like, I mean, I get it. Like, she's got to be full tilt. So she's, like, essentially, like, severing her hand to give her a sample of DNA. But, yeah, it didn't have to, like, be that extreme. In the meantime, Sophie, like, spills the beans about where they're at. I think she got freaked out because they were at the house with the old people, and, like, I think that whole scene, like, freaked her the hell out, and she got scared for Kate. And that's why she told Jacob where Kate was and that she was meeting with Alice. So all of the crows head down to, it looks like a park, I guess, where the waffle stand was, and, like, all of a sudden there's, like, a laser sight on Alice's chest, and you hear somebody saying, like, I got a clear shot. And I liked how Alice was just, like, tattletale. I thought it was really kind of awesome how Kate puts herself between the crows and Alice.
Yeah, just immediately she just flips over. You could tell she's freaking out because I mean, we all knew that she absolutely did not intend for that to happen. And you can see how much she cares for Beth. That scene is kind of striking because she, like, flips over and she has, like, 20 red dot sights on her chest.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, but, like, you can just tell how much she did not want that to happen, how much she loves Beth, and how bad it is for her that this is happening. But it was really nice to see, to me, just how quickly she was just like, oh, fuck no. Shields her.
And I thought it was, I don't know the word I'm looking for here. Meaningful, I guess, that as Kate is standing between Alice and the crows, Alice is watching Kate as she's standing up to their dad about if he kills Alice, not only will he lose Beth, he'll lose Kate too. And Alice is watching her the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing between all three of them, just watching them individually is so emotional. Because you have Jacob, who clearly doesn't want Beth to be Alice, and Kate, who knows that she is, and is all in for her, even if it means losing her dad. And then Alice, who still loves Kate, but also hates her. Like,
Right.
it's just so much going on.
So it ends up that they arrest Alice, and they're going to take her to Arkham, of course. And as she's being loaded into the police van, she says essentially that she sent somebody to kill Mary because she doesn't like to share, and that Kate is her sister.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Dachshund is who she sends to kill Mary. That was, like, a really suspenseful, intense scene. I really hated that. Because it was just, like, very horror movie-esque. Like, the whole axe in the door.
Yeah.
The whole, like, running around and hiding. And, yeah, I just did not care for that scene one bit.
Yeah, I didn't love that.
But Mary fights him off a little bit, and he's using an axe to, like, chop in the door into the room that she's hiding in, and then all of a sudden, like, Batwoman shows up and snatches him with one of her batarangs or whatever it is, and, like, pulls him away, and it turns out she has him, like, tied up somewhere underground and is keeping him because she wants information about Alice. And she's, like, essentially, like, kicking the shit out of him until he gives it to her.
Yeah, I thought that part was interesting because, like I said before, she's, full of hope and in the pursuit of the greater good, but she also kidnaps and tortures someone.
Yeah, she's
still dark.
Yeah, she's still dark. She's very brooding. She lives by her own code, I feel like, and she wants to deal with things how she sees fit.
Yeah, and she is so deeply convinced that she can save Alice, which I certainly think it's true that Alice is Beth. I don't think it's true that Alice can be saved. So
I don't either.
I think Beth is gone. Beth has left the building.
Yeah. I feel like there's traces of Beth, but not enough to
Yeah, I mean, there's still definitely sad Beth who misses her sister, but most of it is just like 99% Alice.
Yeah. So the police escort and van that's taking Alice to Arkham gets blown off a bridge. There's like an explosion and it sends the van into the water. So Alice again is drowning. She did drown, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But Kate goes in and saves her this time, and she uses the rebreather, which none of that makes sense. I could go into the science of it all, but without like plugging her nose, there's no way that she could ensure that
Right.
it's not going to start her breathing again.
No.
Anyways, it
That
resuscitates or like brings Alice back somehow.
that scene was visually stunning.
It was.
Her like you can see her like light the flare in the background through the window of the car and like pull her out, and then you can see the moment that Alice knows that it's Kate. And like it's beautifully done. I loved that scene. I watched it over and over.
And then the explosion and it blows them apart.
Yeah. Because the crows are like actively trying to kill Alice. Also, we didn't mention this specifically, I don't think, but Jacob says that the Gotham City Police Department authorized them to kill Alice. What the hell are the crows? Why? Like, I mean, they're a private security force in Gotham City, we know that, but like, I don't think that police forces authorize private security forces to kill people.
Right. I kind of took it as, I know I've seen it on TV. I assume that it's somewhat true that's like bring them in by any means necessary.
Right, well, she's technically a domestic terrorist, so.
Yeah, dead or alive, that kind of thing. So I guess they're like extending that protocol to them because I guess they see it as like more hands on deck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's still like
It's
sketchy.
weird to just authorize an entire private body to murder someone.
Yeah. So Alice escapes and she does survive. We find out later she leaves Kate a box on her motorcycle at the very end of the show. And inside there's a bat. And at first you think the bat's like dead, but it's not. It's just like stunned or something. And there's a note in there. And among other things, like Alice is saying that putting on the bat suit makes Kate just as crazy as her. And there's other Alice worded things that are in there. But there's also like a note that says you have our father's eyes.
Which is from the comics, if I'm not mistaken.
Straight out of the comic. And it's the Detective Comics. So that elegy that I was talking about last week, that was my endorsement. It's from that.
Yeah, I'm starting to read that tomorrow. I have it already loaded up on my everything.
Yeah, it's so good. Because I wanted to read it again for this, and I like read it in just like a couple hours, if that. Like I just read through it really fast. Yeah, and the Beth in the comics is so much worse than this Beth.
That's kind of hard to imagine since she killed some old people today.
Yeah.
Yesterday. 2 days ago. Wow.
Yeah, I don't even know what day it is.
Who knows? But yeah, I loved that scene with the motorcycle. So what I love about Batwoman, besides the fact that she's dark but still has hope, which is something that you never see. You're either or, usually, in superhero. But I love that in the first episode, Kate finds out that Alice is Beth. And then in the second episode, she tells everyone that she thinks that. And then Alice also finds out that Kate is Batwoman. Like, there's no dramatic irony. There's no secrets. Everyone just knows everything. And, like, even Sophie pretty much figured out that Kate is Batwoman. Kate denies it. Sophie asks her if she's Batwoman. Kate says no. So that'll maybe be tabled for a little while. But she at least, like, figured it out quickly.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll believe Kate that she's not Batwoman. Probably does. But, like, so there's going to be that secret there. But she at least thought it to be true for a second.
Yeah.
So, like, I just love that they're like, that's not something between the characters that's killing people. And I think I probably love that because you and I are both so upset about secrets in our other podcast, in Supergirl. But I just love that that's not what they're hinging their drama on. They're hinging it on, like, actual human relationships and not secrets.
Yeah, and Kate does confront Sophie about selling her out and how she didn't have any problem lying to an entire military academy. So she kind of like laid out their past, like right there.
That scene was so intense and also kind of weird to me. So Kate's like, she says exactly what you just said, where she says, you lied to an entire military academy about me, like I've never done that to you. And then Sophie says, I would never lie to you. And like that's supposed to be her big, like, like a big statement or whatever, but it just like it sort of fell flat to me because like I would never lie to you, but I would lie about you.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. It didn't do it for me, and I don't think it did it for Kate either. um, but it was just like I would never lie to you, sure, but you would never actually claim me either. And I know that there's a lot going on there. Like I will not blame her for not going against Don't Ask, Don't Tell and not keeping her job when that's the opportunity that she had. I'm not going against her for that. It's just there's just a little bit lost in the argument that's like I would never lie to you, but I will lie about you for my
Right.
benefit. Like I don't know. I don't blame her for the choice that she made, but I don't think that was a great argument.
No, I don't either. And Kate just point blank asks Sophie if she's happy.
And Sophie lies.
Yeah. And basically tells her that there is no us. She needs to move on, which
Yeah.
is sad. I feel bad for Kate right now.
Sophie says she's happy, and Kate says, "Are you happy or just ish?" And you can tell that Sophie's just happy in the way that she thinks she's supposed to be. It's very clear, but yeah, you feel really bad for Kate, not only because like she says there's no us and that stuff is hard to hear, but I think that Kate truly doesn't believe that. She doesn't believe that Sophie lied. Or she doesn't believe that Sophie meant it when she said that she didn't love her in the first episode, and she doesn't believe it when she said that she's happy. Like it's bad for Kate on so many levels because she knows that Sophie is actually lying to her, even though she just said that she wouldn't, because she's not happy and she does love Kate. And she's making all these choices that probably aren't very good for her. And at the same time, she's not being with her, which is what she really wants. So a lot of bad things are happening to Kate in this situation.
Yeah. And her dad's mad at her, of course, because
Yeah, he threatened to have her arrested if she keeps going after Alice. And yes, she was partially responsible for Alice going free, but she also never intended for her to get arrested, so.
yeah, that was all not how she foresaw that going. I don't know what would have happened. I don't think Alice would have killed Kate, but I just really don't know. Like, had the crows not intervened, I don't
Oh,
know how that would have ended.
I don't think she would have.
I like to think not, but I don't think I can think like Alice, so
I certainly cannot.
yeah.
I personally, and I don't like to speak for other people, but I can speak for Shelley. Neither one of us have ever slit the throats of very old people.
No,
Or
never.
any people at all.
Never.
Not a throat have I slit. Nary a throat.
And it just, yeah, that's something I'm not going to unsee for a long time.
Yeah, I thought about you when I saw that, actually. I was like, Shelley's not going to handle this well.
And I did not.
That 8 o'clock hour. Can't trust anyone.
No. CW just fucks
This
up
was a
everything.
huge mistake. Whoever's in, like, the executives of the CW are probably like, oh my god.
This is like a 10 o'clock show. Seriously, like in all seriousness, this is like
It
not.
really is a 10 o'clock show. Like, I mean, I don't know if parents are watching Batwoman with their children, but they should be.
Yeah, that probably stopped this week. If they were.
Certainly stopped this week. Oh, it's harmless. It comes on at 8 p.m. It's probably just like Charmed. Nope.
Afraid not. Sorry, friends. Also, the other character that we didn't really touch on this week is Luke Fox, and he's like figuring out how shit works in the Batcave. He's trying to help help Kate a little bit from the Batcave.
Yeah, so he, like, at the beginning is still, like, very steadfast in his, like, I am here to be security for this building so that nobody finds out that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And that's, like, that's his thing. He's like, I'm giving you this suit temporarily, but you can't keep using it. Like, this stuff, this Batcave, it is all here waiting for Batman. And then pretty quickly becomes endeared to Kate and starts helping her with everything. And there is the only thing that he does in this episode beyond helping Kate, which I do like, and I love him, and I like that they're going to be friends, but I want a little more for him. It seems that he and Lucius Fox do not get along.
Yeah, so he has like some kind of situation with his father where they don't see eye to eye.
He says he's nothing like him, and Kate says, I know, your dad was useful.
Yeah, that was pretty good. She has a way with words.
She does. Oh, I love her so much. Yeah, so he seems to not get along well with Morgan Freeman, who plays Lucius Fox in the Christopher Nolan Batman movies.
Yes.
But that is who I'm picturing and who I will continue to picture until they replace him with somebody else.
Somebody less worthy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was it. That's pretty much it for the episode this week.
Yeah, it was great. I really liked the pilot, and I think that this was somehow eons better.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, like that shot of them underwater was just amazing. It was beautiful.
Which is crazy because the shot of her underwater that they opened the pilot with was also crazy. It was also really good, but yeah, just all of it was just the storyline was like established series episode level of good. Like it just all seemed really well done. I think the show is like, I mean, I know that we want to like it for a lot of reasons, but like I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think it's just genuinely really good.
Yeah,
and I think you
is.
can see that in this episode. It is a good show, and everyone else can shut up.
I feel like if you are thinking the show's bad and like you're not inspired to go and find out like everything you can about Batwoman's story, then you're probably not really watching the show.
I think so too. I think that if you don't want to like it from the get-go, then you're not going to because you've told yourself how you feel already. But I think that if you show this episode to most people and you don't tell them what it is or anything else, you just show them this episode of television, I think it's pretty objective. This was a very good episode of television. Like, it was riveting, it was suspenseful, the storyline was good, you're invested in the characters, it had humor, it had everything that you need in an episode of TV. Like, it was just straight up good.
It really was.
It made me really excited about Batwoman.
And it made me like want to keep reading Batwoman comics.
Yeah.
Because I haven't read all of them. I don't know her whole story. So I feel like I need to change that.
Yeah.
And I will.
And I will. Yeah. No, I am really excited about Batwoman. So last episode we didn't do this because it was our first episode as well as Batwoman's first episode. But at this point in the podcast, we will read your feedback that you give to us, either about the episode or about our podcast or whatever you want to say to us. So we're going to go ahead and launch right into it. So here is what you all thought about Batwoman episode 2.
So at Alex Danvers 2017.
The Alex Danvers?
The Alex Danvers. They said they loved it, intrigued by Kane running on hope instead of purely snark.
Same.
At Tracy Harley 11 said loving the show. At Ace Talk 73 loved it also. At NYER in SC, I'm assuming that's New York or in South Carolina, I watched the show for the first time tonight. I had to download the CW app to watch the first episode. I love this show. It is so good. You made the right choice. At Bugs Deborah, I love this episode more than the first, but the first one was good. I love the relationship aspect that Batwoman and her sister will have in the future, as well as a relationship dilemma with the beautiful Sophie. I'm looking forward to Sunday nights with the show, as are we.
Yeah. All of you who said you love it, absolutely. We do too. It's just really good.
It really is.
And we absolutely, if you have some legitimate criticism, we will hear it and consider it, and probably will have some too of our own in the future. But right now, we just love it and we're really excited.
Yes.
So for emails, we have an email from Leslie. Leslie, we know from our Supergirl podcast, Pot Off Course. We would like to welcome you to our Batwoman podcast. Hello, Leslie. Leslie says, hi, I sent my original email about Batwoman to your Pot Off Course email address. Here's my email below. I just listened to your inaugural Batwoman podcast. I loved it. Very informative, interesting, and so much fun. The last 2 minutes of the podcast made me laugh out loud. I had just gotten to work and the podcast continued to play. It was very funny and I was able to walk into work with a smile on my face. That is in reference to our outtake at the end where we were both very, very tired. I didn't realize Kate had stuck her thumb in Sophie's mouth after her rescue. She did, and it was weird. But despite that, I still like the scene. Yeah, it was mostly cute, but that part is really weird. Okay, and then Leslie sent us another email that goes a little bit more into Batwoman, so we will read that as well. It says, hello, Pot Off Course podcasters. Best wishes on your new podcast, Red Herring. I look forward to your insights on Batwoman. Thank you. We hope to not be annoying.
Yes.
Despite some criticisms of the Batwoman series that I've heard, I didn't let them deter me from seeing for myself if I liked Batwoman, and I do like it a lot, actually. I've been a fan of Ruby Rose since the movie Triple X: Return of Xander Cage. I'm assuming Triple X is how you say that. It's a lowercase x, uppercase X, lowercase x. And sci-fi TV series Dark Matter. I didn't know she was in Dark Matter. I've heard of it, but I guess I don't know anything about it. I don't know much about Batwoman in the comics, but I did enjoy the brief animated series. I think Kate Kane is intense and very badass. My favorite scene thus far is in the pilot when Kate saves Sophie and Sophie could see these very intense eyes staring back at her from the mask. Sophie knew that the person who saved her wasn't Batman, but rather her ex-girlfriend, Kate. Yeah, I think so too. I think she did know, and I think that she will be mad later that she does believe Kate when Kate said that she's not her. Apparently this is another show about sisters, Kate and Beth, and Kate and Mary. I like Mary, Beth not so much, if she really now is Alice. Yeah, she's a murderer, so.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat that the Gotham radio reporter Vesper Fairchild is voiced by Rachel Maddow. Yeah, I think so too. It makes me smile every time she talks. Speaking of Vesper Fairchild. Last podcast, I talked about how we had heard that in the Arrowverse before, and I thought that it was James and Supergirl, and the reason I thought that is because Vesper Fairchild is a journalist, and so that made sense in my head when I couldn't remember where she came from. Vesper Fairchild was first mentioned in the Arrow episode of Elseworlds, and it was in this context. She was never been mentioned outside of the context of Batwoman. But it was in the Arrow episode of Elseworlds, which is the middle episode, and they get to Gotham City, and Oliver says that he might know somebody who knows what's going on in Gotham City, but he's not sure if she'll pick up because he can't remember if he slept with her or not. And apparently he does, because Barry, who everyone thinks is Oliver at that point in the Elseworlds storyline, calls and she won't pick up. So Oliver Queen has maybe, potentially, probably slept with Vesper Fairchild. So that's how I heard of her before. That's what it was. Now we know. um, okay, but it's pretty neat that she's voiced by Rachel Maddow. That's what Leslie says. I agree. I love that I love that a lot. And then Leslie says, have a great podcast. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you came with us to our Batwoman podcast.
Yes, Leslie is amazing. She will write amazing emails, and it typically echoes our sentiments, and she has like really good insights on her, just of her own. So it's always good to hear from Leslie.
Yeah, Leslie often says exactly what I'm thinking, but more eloquently and more efficiently. So,
Yes.
Leslie, I love you for that.
Same. So thank you to everyone who took the time to write in. You can reach us via Twitter at redherringpod and through email at redherringpod@gmail.com. Now we'll get to our endorsements. This week I want to endorse the TV show Comic Book Men. It was originally on AMC and now it is on Amazon Prime. Kevin Smith, the film director, he owns a comic book shop, and it's called Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash. It's in Red Bank, New Jersey, and I actually traveled there this past Thursday to check the shop out, and I got to meet Mike Zapsik, who's my favorite comic book man, and I did get to see Walt Flanagan, who is the guy who runs the shop essentially, and Brian Johnson, who is just a friend of theirs who just hangs out there all the time. But the show is really awesome. They talk a lot about old comics and toys. Like people come into the store. It's kind of like the what's it called? Pawn Stars or something like that. That's on AMC, except it's comic books and old collectibles that usually comic book people are interested in. You see all kinds of things come in. You kind of get an idea of what they're worth, which some of the stuff is just insane. And they're funny. They're just very humorous. It's kind of like potty humor stuff, but it's still funny to watch. But the show's really good. I enjoy it. I like Kevin Smith movies. So if you're into that kind of thing, check it out. It's on Amazon Prime right now. I think there's 7 seasons of it. And they started out to be an hour long, and then in the later seasons, the shows dropped to half an hour. So, Comic Book Men on Amazon Prime.
I'm really excited to start watching that. Okay, so mine, it's not an endorsement of a thing or like a show or anything, but it's something that I think is really important for all of us to know, especially because Shelly and I do these podcasts so that we can talk about things from a queer lens, as we are both queer people. And I think it's important to talk about this because it's something that's very relevant to us. It's also relevant to the storyline of Batwoman. So Batwoman in the first episode, and it carries through this episode, the reason that Sophie and Kate aren't still together is because they were caught together at West Point and were forced to either say that they were not gay or queer in any way, or that they basically had to renounce their relationship or they were going to be kicked out. So that is relevant because I think it's really important that we all know, and not just for queer people. I think it's very important that everyone knows because it actually has implications for all Americans. Last week on October 8th, there were a couple of cases heard before the Supreme Court that are going to have really big implications for the rights of LGBTQ people, and I haven't seen it hugely in the news, and I think that everyone needs to know. So I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of what's happening. So there were 3 cases technically heard before the Supreme Court on October 8th. 2 of them were consolidated together, so it was technically 2 cases. The 2 that were consolidated were Altitude Express Inc. versus Zarda and Bostock versus Clayton County, Georgia. And they were 2 cases where 2 gay men were fired, and they're claiming they were claiming that it was because of their sexuality that they were fired. And the other one is RG and GR Harris Funeral Homes, Inc. versus Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is arguing on behalf of Amy Stevens and 2 other trans people who were fired, but specifically Amy Stevens, who is a trans woman who was fired after she wrote a letter to her boss saying that she was a trans woman and she is going to use the name Amy and she is going to dress as a woman and use she her pronouns, and that she will still follow their policy based on how women will dress, but she is a woman and that is how she is going to present from now on. And that's the letter that she sent to her boss, and she was fired because of it. And so those are the 3 cases that were heard. And they were heard on the same day because they are thematically similar. Basically, the question at hand is whether Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits employers from discriminating against employees on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. Title VII already covers sex, race, color, national origin, and religion. So this case is going to determine whether or not it also counts for sexual orientation and gender identity. And when they make their decision about that, it's going to have really big implications for the LGBT community, because if they rule in favor of the employers, they're basically allowing LGBTQ people to be discriminated against, not only in the workplace, but because it's all within the Civil Rights Act, it could also have implications for healthcare, housing, education, and pretty much every right that LGBTQ people have. It also, just in general, Title IX is part of the Civil Rights Act. Title IX it prohibits sex discrimination based on, like, education. So you can't discriminate in education based on sex, is how it's written. So if they decide that Title VII doesn't apply to sexual orientation and gender identity in the workplace, then they could interpret Title IX to be similar. So if you don't present masculinely enough for a company or femininely enough for a company, they could discriminate against you. So even if you're not LGBTQ, it will have implications for you. But if they do rule in favor of the people who were fired in these cases, then it could have implications for the 28 states that don't already have employment discrimination protections for LGBTQ people. So it's a really big deal. Like, it is history in the making, and people were lining up outside the Supreme Court building to get a seat in these hearings. So it's a huge deal. It's going to continue to be a huge deal, and I just haven't heard much about it. So I think all y'all gays and all y'all not gays need to know.
Yes, thank you. I mean, you said some things that I didn't know, so I'm very appreciative of it.
You're welcome. Political science is my thing, so yeah, everyone should know. The decision is expected in early summer of 2020, so please pay attention to that, because the Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court to rule in favor of the employers who fired these people. And I don't know if we all know, but the Supreme Court is now stacked in their favor. So just be wary and be aware.
Yeah. Please rate and review us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Please reach out and share your thoughts with us. Email us at redherringpod@gmail.com. And you can also leave us comments on Twitter at redherringpod. Aside from at redherringpod on Twitter, you can find us individually. I'm at shop23, SCHOP23 on Twitter and Instagram.
I am Ernie Greenbean on Twitter and Instagram.
And thank you so much for listening to this episode of Red Herring, and we will talk to you again next time.
See ya!
Bye. Please rate and review us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Damn it. Why? Why?
Your podcasts.
Wow. Oh.
Shelly doesn't function after 10 p.m.
I don't. That is fact. That is hard fact. Irrefutable. All right, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try again. Damn it.